Good evening. The Who's today were on at Gosford. It was a Hawkesbury meeting. Whilst Hawkesbury is lengthening its straight, making the straight longer. There are meetings. Their meetings are being transferred. It was on at Gosford today, and the track was given out a dead 4, a real good grass cover. And it was up after the third race. It was upgraded to a good 3, and the rail was 3 metres out. But unfortunately, down the side, turning into the straight, if you were on the fence, you were a shot duck, because there was no winner that was on the fence before the turn, although Sale might have been there, but got off before the turn and got in between runners. So the track, if you're on the inside leading, or on the fence behind the leader, you were in a bit of strife. Now the first race, forgetting about the top fluck, which is a lot of rubbish, as of course we all know. In the marketplace, all we were able to squeeze out of this race was 3%. And by the way, unfortunately, we played to an empty house there today. If you would have taken away the pros, it was our holdings would have been virtually nil. There are just no players. There are no punters. There's far too much racing, and of course the punters that are about, they can't most of the time make their way to the track, if at all, and of course the TAB just bleeds them dry, and they've got no section left, and there are simply no punters about at all. And as I say, it was a very quiet, and I mean there was no noise there at all, no atmosphere, and just a handful of regular the regular grumble and grunters, with a lot of them missing today. As I say, this first race we only had 103, and there was a protest in this race which was upheld. The favourite, unfortunately, was protested against, and for the grumble and grunters' misfortune, by a 9-2 chance after $6 was given. These were the flux in the first. Big Bash, when opened up $4, was into $3.80, got back out to 4. Yankee Hoedown started favourite, went from $2, 5 to 4 chance out to $3, back into $2.80 or $2.90. Make Mine a WO, it went from $5 to $9, didn't have a price. The winner, Blue Teo, $4.60 out to $6, back into $5.50. Go Mickey, $5 out to $6, back into $5.50, and the bottom one, Love Me, went from $21 to $81. You couldn't even get put its name in the ledger. When it led Big Dash, up on its outside was Yankee Hoedown, and when they turned for home, in third position was the eventual winner, Blue Teo. It tailed them into the straight. Unfortunately, was taken a little slightly wide on the turn, but then halfway down the straight, the Yankee Hoedown came out and nudged the Blue Teo slightly, but that was enough for the Stipes to uphold the protest. And I think all that Corey Brown on the winner would have had to have said is that I only got beat an inch, and the bump and the interference, a little bit of interference on the turn, cost me maybe a long neck, and stick to that plan. And unfortunately for favourite backers, the Stipes had no alternative but to uphold the protest. That was about that race. The next race, we saw a field of 4 go around, and the captains well, I finished up. I lost on this race, believe it or not. The outsider of the field won, but we only gave, was only 93% in the marketplace, only a field of 4. Now this opening favourite, Now I See, number 1, it didn't have a price. I haven't put its name in the ledger yet. It went from a $2 opening favourite, evens on the field, evens Now I See. It was 9-4 at the finish. It went from $2 to $3.30. If you're betting, the owners didn't turn up, obviously. I finished up running second, only got beat 0.2 of a length. Wish it would have got home. As I say, evens to 9-4. Osbury Miss went from $3 out to $4.60. Now the next runner, Regalic, it opened up $2.80, got out to $3.20, but it started $2.20 or 25, same thing, 5-4. The pros did take as little as $2.30 off me just before they jumped, and I gave $12 about the winner, and which was taken off me, and they also took the $11 off me. It started around about the $10 mark, hard to get the winner, Modest Hero, and Killer Cat back from a suspension of 1.5 weeks, was having her first ride back, and she sat back in last position in the field of 4, saving ground near the fence but getting off. It led on the fence Regalic, tied up against it, and halfway along that back the side, coming down the side about the 700 metre or 800 metre mark, it was more or less gone. It finished up running last, beaten 8.6 lengths. Kath kept on, she got off the fence slightly coming to the turn, looking at the 2 leaders. The Regalic by this time had dropped out the last before the turn, and it had moved up on the outside. Now I See of Osbury Miss, who had taken over, and Kath just looked at the pair and was able to ease off their heels halfway up the straight, and Bob Now I See near the line to beat her by 0.2 of a length, and Osbury Miss was 3.5 lengths back in third position, giving in those fields where they're very limited and very one-paced. The horse which is generally given the easy run back in the field, most of the times, a lot of the times wins, finishes up getting the prize. The third race, we had 106 on the screen here, but unfortunately for the captains, the Avery got the money. Talking about Petrify, leading on the fence was Robard. Of course, the stewards queried its run. They didn't have to query the run, they just had to query the track, of course. They got the vet to run his hands over it and scratching their head, why did it go so bad? But it had barrier 1 and it was on the fence, that's why it went so bad. The fence was no good, and they're talking about putting blinkers on it next start because of its performance. But if it would have been drawn off the track and having a better run, of course, it finishes closer. The favourite, it sat outside at Petrify, pulled a little bit on Jovial Josh Parr, and in the 1-1 position, tailing Petrify all the way, was the second place getter. It failed by half a length, and that pair got away to beat 4 lengths to the third horse, which was number 4, Samantha's Knight, who was on the fence and got off just before the turn, running third. Petrify, we put it up a 10-9 on chance, $1.90. It got out to as much as $2.40 Petrify, but it only started around about the $2.20 mark, extremely well backed. And Knowing, the second horse, also extremely well backed, it opened up a $7 chance, got out to $8.50, but it only started around about a $6.50 chance, Knowing, and it was being safely held on the line, but failed to get there. The winner was just a little bit too strong. It did look as if for one stride after straightening that Knowing was going to race up to Petrify, but Knowing's had quite a few chances and it wasn't able to get past it. That's about all you'd say. The second pick, Robard, opened up $4, was taken. I did lay it fairly well at the $4. Was quite happy to do that considering the barrier it had. Was into 380. I was $4.20 when they jumped. As I say, there were other runners in the race that were in the market. Well, it were double figure odds. Number 2 was $19 on label, and number 6 Bugner $17 or $18 on label, and Samantha's Gift Night $9 on label. The winner well backed, and it was a losing race for the captains. Race 4, we only squeezed 100% out of this race, and there were quite a few runners that didn't have a price, and but the winner did, and that was Sale. It opened up the 5-2 favourite Sale, and it got out to as much as $4.40 on quite a few boards, plenty of $4.20. It did only start about a $3.70 chance, starting second favourite. And it sat well back in the field in about 4th or 5th last position, quite close to the fence down the side, maybe a little bit off, but when they swung for home, Jovial Josh Parr was able to get middle splits and ran through the middle of the field to win by 1 length. Starting favourite in this race was the John O'Shea trained Hey Hey Rene, and it drew out in a fairly wide alley in about it came in maybe 2 or 3 into about 12 alley, and in a field of 14, and at the start James McDonald, I think the reason it was so well backed, the pros were of course aware that the inside was very iffy, and it was it had trialled fairly well, Hey Hey Rene, but at the start McDonald was he went well back in the field, and turning for home he was held up slightly and came fairly wide on the turn, making up plenty of ground. It was a fairly good run. It finished up running third, beaten 1.2 lengths, and we put it up well, maybe we put it up equal favourite, $3.50 equal favourite, but it got out to $3.70 or $3.80, but it was poleaxed by the pros. How much is it? 380, 360, 50, 40. They killed you for the 330, 20, and even the $3. At one stage, this runner was into as little as $2.50. At one stage, it was 11 to 4 to 6 to 4. It started $2.90 on my board, and very hard to lay at the death, but it was bookies were most probably snowed in with it, and they reached for the other runners. The winner, as I said, got out to $4.40, but it was very well backed. And the Gay Waterhouse trained Bean Awakened. Well, it drew actually barrier 14, and it came across, of course, and went straight to you know where, and on the 18 pence, which wasn't the place to be. So that was a beauty, finding the lead, which was no good, of course. It opened up about a $9 chance. It got out to as much as 11, and it was extremely well backed into about $8, an $8.7 to 1 chance. And it came in a couple into barrier 12, and Hey Hey Rene actually had about barrier 10, and well, I've told you about it. And of course, being awakened, it came across and let on the fence, which wasn't the place to be. So and it weakened out, so its run wasn't as bad as it looked. There were a couple of runners that were, which was very easy to see, that were fairly badly blocked in this race. One of them being number 1, Ava. It was held up. It wasn't too. It was sitting in about 6th position, and never ever got a run after they turned for home. If it would have got a run, it would have finished fairly, a few more lengths closer. And there was another runner down near the bottom, number 13, Non-Stop Rock. It had barrier 2, and it never ever got a run, and it was on the fence all the way. And so I suppose its run can be overlooked as well. Um, Out of that race, I think Hey Hey Rene, the horse that started favourite, would be the one which would be worth following. Not that you'd be going out of your way to back it next time it started, but it'll obviously run a lot better next start. Race 5, we only finished up with a field of 4 here. There was originally 5 runners. The $26 chance Oscar's Reward was scratched at the barrier. It was found to be lame, and before it was scratched, we only had 101 in the marketplace. And after the $26 chance came out, this is what you could have had when it came out. There it was in front of you. It was $6.50 May Nelly, $7.50 Majestic Beast, the favourite and winner Trick Shot $1.90, and $4.60 Oscar's Reward, around about 102% after the $26 chance came out as when they got around to the barrier. And going to, so we have left with a field of 4. Going straight to the front was La Luna, and sitting on the south side was the favourite Trick Shot. Trick Shot led early but let La Luna go around and take the lead. And then Catwalk Corey, he sat on the south side. Tucked away behind on the fence was Majestic Beast, and on its outside was May Nelly. When they got down to the turn, May Nelly had made a move to be out 3 wide. It had completely dropped out La Luna. Trick Shot had found the lead. May Nelly, for a couple of strides, looked like it was going to make it a very, very interesting race. If not, you could easily say to yourself, watching the race, it was going to come run up and get past Trick Shot, but that wasn't the case. Trick Shot was a bit too strong for it and beat it by a length and a half on the line. It was 2 3/4 lengths back to the Majestic Beast, who was on the fence but finished off it in the straight. And La Luna, who stayed close to the fence all the way, was beaten 3.5 lengths. Leading on the fence, not the place to be. Race 6, another race where we played sway with the punters, with the grumble and grunters. We only got about 100. These were the flux in this race. Lucano opened up 7, got out to $8.50, or $8 was killed for at one stage, but started at $8.50. The shooter, the stablemate to the winner, Zeus, who they crossed the line together, only 0.1 of a length between them. It was very well backed. It opened up $3.50, got out to $4. It started about a $3.40 chance. Sandrio, always firm in the betting, opened up $5 and fluctuated between $5 and $4.60 and $4.80 the entire betting. You could easily load at $5, started $4.80. Beaveroo didn't have a price, Beaveroo, and it was a fairly ordinary run. It never passed a runner. It settled down a long last and finished up being beaten 9.3 lengths. It didn't have a price. It went from $6 out to $11, if not $12, Beaveroo. Zeus, the stablemate to the shooter. Now, the shooter had blinkers on today, and they did announce that it was going to be ridden forward. Was sat in 3rd hole. And Zeus, we put it up the 6 to 4 or 11 to 8, $2.40 or $2.50 favourite, and it got out to $3.80 at one stage, taken into $3.60, hard to get, but then back out to about $3.70 or $3.60 when the starter said go. Mighty Madeline, it made up plenty of ground after missing the kick, which didn't matter. It opened up a $15 chance, got out to 17, back into about a $15 chance, and Orbiter, who led in the race, threw a little bit of a spanner into the works. It was $26 out to 51. No good at all for the captains, and especially when, even though Zeus got well out in the market, the figures were hopeless. Beaveroo didn't have a price like the bottom one, the Ruffy. There was a little bit of percentage in those two, and if you gave the 370 and the 380 the winner, it was extremely hard to win that is, unless you did stand the shooter for plenty, which was very easy to do. One of the pros had a very large plate of the shooter. Race 7, we only bet 97% here, losing figures. Now, there was a they were all blowing up about why the filthy TAB only finished up paying twos on $1.50 the winner in this race, Bionic Azalin. It was if it would have won Bionic Girl, which was scratched to the barrier after getting its leg up over the barrier, and the vet scratched it. It was in the ring at the time of the scratching. Well, I had up $7 on the board. I think on the tote, it might have even been $5. It might have only been a $4.60 or $4.80 chance. And at the time, of course, the favourite was $1.80 chance on the tote, Azalin. And of course, when it came out, Bionic Girl, it was returned, it finished up paying no more for the favourite. Can't go on with it, please. Azalin was Bionic Girl came out, which made, and it was well in the market on the tote. It was very hard to lay in the ring. It paid $1.50. The SPs with the bookmakers after it came out, Bionic Girl, were this way. Highland Lad was an $18 chance. I'm Capable became the second favourite at $4.20. The winner, Aslan, you could after Bionic Girl came out, was still $1.80. The next runner, Jules of Ava, it was a $15 chance. Frankie Four Fingers, it was a $11 chance. The next runner was Not Wanted, it was an $18 chance. $61 Where Is He and Chilatoga, and the bottom one, Lucy's Grace, a $41 chance. And this favourite was extremely well backed. It went up, we put it up a $2.40 chance. One captain reached for it and got to and bet $1.90 on the fence, but the best luck was only $2.70, and it was $2.70 into $2.50. Of course, the $2.90 was taken. $2.90 into $2.70 taken, into $2.50, into $2.40, into $2.30, killed for the $2.25, the 5 to 4. How much do you want, captains? And the $2.20, the $2.15, the $2.10, and they took the $2.05 off us just before the late scratching of Bionic Girl. It was evening money on the field just before the late scratching. When it came out, Bionic Girl, it became a 5 to 4 on chance. Proper Peter Roble was on board. He jumped out, he looked at the runners, he eased back to about third last position, wide, but with cover. Up near the lead, or leading on the fence, was Jules of Ava. On its outside, Frankie Four Fingers, and trapped 3 wide outside. That pair was Not Wanted. And tucked away on the fence was I'm Capable from barrier 1. On its outside till was Lucy's Grace. And proper Peter Roble, he was sort of 3-carding, looking at Not Wanted up ahead 3 wide. And when they turned for home, he balanced up and came down the outside and won by a length and a half. Very well ridden. And of course, the second favourite, I'm Capable, drew the inside marble. It had barrier 1, and that was going to be against it. It was on the fence all the way, and it finished up running third last beaten, about 3 3/4 lengths. It was a very bad result for the captains because the pros had a few large plates of the winner. They did have in the last race not only a few large plates of one runner in this race, I'm talking about Bolivian Dash. They had an absolute, well, what do you call it? It was a bit of a grand booth job. Bolivian Dash it was back from $4.60 into, well, I was 2.80 when they jumped. I think it most probably returned a little bit less. I did lay it at the 4.60. I did lay it at the $4. I laid it at 3.50. Laid it at 3.40. Laid it at 3.30. I was claimed at $3, and there was a bit of a mix-up. Didn't lay it at the $3, but I got plenty out of it at $2.19, $2.90, and it started at $2.80 chance on my board. It more or less had every possible chance. It did seem sure dodge to me, but it's very easy now. It drew in a field of 8. It had the outside alley, and I suppose by now everybody was aware that the inside was no good. It was always going to be up near the lead. Drawing the outside alley, I suppose, an advantage, and it was backed as if there was no settling. The figures in this race were absolutely disgraceful. We only gave 90%. These were the flux. Fort Sumter, which ran a mighty race, it sat on the outside of the leader. It led Fetch from barrier 1. And where did it run? It ran 100 yards. Well, it ran 14 lengths last. It's not much good anyway, but the leading on the fence didn't do it any good. Sitting on its outside was Fort Sumter. Now, first going back to the flux, how we got to 90. Fort Sumter was $6 out to $9. Mr. Scary, coming down from Queensland for Ronnie Quinton, it was $3.50 out to $6.50 back into $6. Just like Zach went from $3.50, we did put up plenty of per here to start, but remembering, well, the filthy TAB puts up a hotter set than we do, but remembering that we were playing here to an empty house all day. We put it up $3.50 just like Zach, but it started $7. The next runner, I'm So Dapper, was 51 to 201. Monty Shogun, the winner, we put it up a $4 chance, 3 to 1. It got to $6. Now, one of the pros had a good chance. One of the pro who did have a good large plate of Bolivian Dash also had a nice appetizer with Monty Shogun taking all the $6. It started $5.50, very hard to get. Hot Heels, well, it didn't have a price. It only went from $11 chance, 10 to 1, out to $26, 10s to 25s. Bolivian Dash, I've already told you, opened up $4, got to $4.60, back into as little as $2.70 at one stage, or $2.80, back out to start around about that price. And Fetch, it never had a price. It went from $7 out to $15. We only got about 90%. And the winner, besides the well-backed Bolivian Dash, was extremely well-backed, and bookies were trying to get something out of the wreck, out of the others, and the winner could have taken the cream off the race if you did stand the favourite, which was very easy to do or hard to escape, and bookies were glad to see it get beat. It would have been a huge result, the second horse, Fort Sumter, who ran a good race, as I say, but it went down by 0.8 of a length. The winner got a charm run. As I said before, leading on the fence was Fletch, on its outside, Fort Sumter, and Christian Reith. He was able to get into a lovely position, third position, off the fence, looking at the two leaders, moved up to Fort Sumter after straightening, and was a little bit too strong under hard riding all the way down the straight to win by, as I said, 0.8 of length. It came from fourth position, I'm Scary, and beaten 2.8 lengths, and it made up a lot of ground, just like Zach, after missing the Kickby a couple of lengths, and also copping a fairly good bump at the start. After they'd gone more or less 200 metres, it was five lengths behind the second last horse. It was 5 lengths behind I'm So Dapper. It got into second last or third last position, turning for home, but Jenny Duggan had to make a fairly long run on it. It made up good ground, but it was beaten 4.6 lengths. Even if it comes down the barrier, I doubt whether it would have won. That was about the meeting. So we'll see what the next meeting we've got is Saturday at Rose Hill. So if you had a bet today, hope you had some luck. And over the weekend, if you're betting, well, of course you're betting tomorrow. There's 1,000 meetings on to bet, and a couple in New South Wales tomorrow. And and wine, of course, is on Sunday. So we'll talk to you later on. Good evening.